Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, hope you're having a fantastic day and an even better week. Today, folks, we're going to jump in and see things through a different frame of reference. Now, a lot of times we jump into these videos and we use the organizational aspect because it's oftentimes where we congregate the most is at work, right? And that doesn't mean all of us are congregating in large, medium, or small groups at work, but many throughout culture do. And it really, I guess, wouldn't matter what groups we're talking about, but the organization tends to be an arena where we're pretty broken right now, right? So today I'm going to take a little turn off the paved road onto a gravel road, topically anyway, and kind of see things and have you look at something through a different lens. And it doesn't matter organization, family life, friend groups, civic, all the things, right? Doesn't matter. You apply it where you will. But I think that as you kind of see the sequence and how things fall together, I think you'll understand a little bit. And it might bring enough nuance to your thoughts about these things, about these different groups that you're involved with, so that you have a better understanding of how important you are to the grand scheme of things, right? You're probably thinking, Steve, what the heck are you talking about right now? Well, what I want you to do is imagine yourself as a time traveler, okay? Imagine that you've come back 20, 30, 50, whatever, years from the future to now. And imagine that 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, years into the future, things are not great. Things are significantly eroded, right? Socially, interpersonally, all of it. All of culture has really been on a downward glide. But you've been sent back from the future, right, with one goal. Well, I don't say one goal, but one overarching theme. And that is to ensure that the future from this point forward ends up better than what it ultimately did, right? So then ask yourself, right, how would you go about doing that? Now, at the end of my videos, if you've stayed long enough to get to the very end, you'll notice there's a bit of a graphic with green dominoes, right? The good green domino effect is what I call it. And but in this time traveling scenario, imagine now you've come back and you're living your life. Maybe you didn't even know you were a time traveler, right? And now you can look at this and this journey of life and all these facets and how you are, within culture, small, big, medium, all the different interactions that you have group wise and everything else. And then ask yourself, what can I do here to change the outcome for the better, right? Instead of dividing people, how do I find ways to unite people? Instead of bringing uh, controversy in the dramatic sense, right? Some things are controversial just on their own. It's not a matter of bringing any drama to it. But how do I decompress and change this toxicity to something productive? How do we how do we take these lemons and make some really kick-ass lemonade, right? For the future. Now, I set that premise and you might be thinking, what are you talking about? Well, think about it. Set that premise aside. You are a time traveler. Everything you are doing right now, every second, every minute of the day, even when even when you don't think you're making a difference or that you don't think anything's really affected by the things that you think, say, and do, they are. They really are. Most parents would understand this, Well, you let your hands off the wheels too much and things can become difficult, right? Over controlling, same way. It's trying to find a balance, right? But if you don't put the intentionality into that, the outcome can significantly be lesser than than what you hoped for. Okay. But all that being said, we have our own, our own lives or our own bus that we're driving, so we're all ultimately responsible for our own lives. But you can look at all these things, all your associations, and ask yourself, I've got this life. How can I turn this lemon scenarios in some cases? No, not all scenarios are lemon cases. Sometimes it's preserving the good lemonade that you have, right? Sometimes it's not converting the lemons to lemonade. Sometimes it's just maintaining and improving upon the flavor of that lemonade, perhaps to, uh, you know, say feed, but to quench the thirst of, right, with lemonade, quench the thirst of many instead of a few, right? If you're a baker at home and perhaps you decide, you know what, I think I want to bake and sell some of my food to, in the local market or all these things, right? Expand your base in for your products, right? And then this enriches folks' lives, everybody's life, many people's lives, if not, we'll say all, right? It's not like we're helping everybody around the world all in one shot. But if you consider the butterfly effect, there is kind of a premise here that if bake that one, luscious loaf of bread, um, that it can change, that can change the world. The loaf of bread that changed the world. Okay, there you go. There's an idea. Have fun with that one. But the loaf of bread that changes the world, right? Perhaps you're that baker, or maybe it's that garden and you're growing flowers or um, growing food or vegetables, or maybe you have trees, maybe you have orchards, maybe whatever it is. Maybe it's a talent or a skill. Maybe you're a counselor. Maybe you're uh, tutoring and mentoring youth or adults or, all the things. There's so many opportunities out there for folks, right? To be able to help. And you can, because so many are doing, and you're having an impact even in your own organizations that you work in every day. Okay. Same way, your customer service and how you act with, you're accountable, you have integrity, how you treat your customers, right? Really, are you a healer in that scenario, right? You're not in business just to take people's money. There should be a broader purpose, right, to our path. And but within that broader purpose are these small acts. It could be acts of kindness, right? It could be something as subtle as carrying extra box or two of, say, power bars or, something like that, and water in your vehicle. And when somebody is obviously thirsty or caught out or clearly hungry in a moment, you have something readily at hand, that you can do that. You're getting off the exit somewhere and it's hot, and there's a mom, who's struggling and maybe they've got little ones. Now, granted, we'd hope to do more, but maybe you're in busy traffic moving way too fast. What can you do in that short little snapshot to make a difference, right? And then the next person does a thing. And, we're all pushing those good green dominoes as we go. But it is taking the opportunity and looking for the opportunity to make a difference, right? And in that way, you're very much a time, excuse me, a time traveler. You're constantly traveling through time right now, right? Everything you're doing in every moment is affecting the future. So, in that regard, time traveler, let me encourage you by saying that not only is what you're doing important, it is highly significant to the future. And all of us with an intention, purpose, and whether they be small acts of kindness and helps and all these things, all the way up to, you know, building the next bridge or a building or, energy resource or all the big ticket things that we do as, large teams and organizations typically. Whatever it is, you need to see how instrumental and how important that the outcome is, and that without you, this outcome isn't going to be as favorable, right? So it doesn't matter how small or how large your activity is. Think about, hey, I'm a time traveler. How I'm affecting the future. And I want the future to be a good thing. I want the future to be an amazing thing, not only for the remainder of my own life, but further generations. And if you're a parent or grandparent, or if you just, have family in general or friends, and, doesn't matter. Don't have to have family. You can just have friends. You're impacting the generations to come. And that is a significant, very important task. So, your mission, time traveler, through your thoughts, your words, and your actions, is to continue to go out there, uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage folks by hitting that good green domino 3 to 5 times a day or more. And when you do that, not only are we helping to transform culture, but you're transforming your own life. And that's important because you're important. All right, folks. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember to hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.